This is lesson 2 on chapter 2, percent and estimation. And again, we go back to our essential question. How can percent help you understand situations involving money? Okay, so the two things that we will be learning in this lesson are these two. We are going to estimate the percent. Okay, we are going to estimate the percent of a number. And then the second thing that we are going to be learning here is that we are going to understand percents greater than 100 and percents less than 1. Okay, so these are the two important objectives that we are going to learn. So let's take a look at the real world link. Suppose 200 people are surveyed to find out how they learn to play an instrument. The results are shown in the table. Okay, so you have private lessons at 42%. Okay, the estimated percent is 40% because if you notice 42 is close to 40%. So we know that the fraction of 40% is 2/5. How is that? Because 40% is actually 40 over 100. So 40 over 100 in simplest form is 2 over 5. Okay, and let's take a look at lessons at school. We know that the actual percent is 32%. So if you want to want to estimate 32%, we know that 32% is closer to 30%. So we can actually uh, write this as 30%. Okay, so this is 30%, our estimate for 32%. And if we write 30% as a fraction, 30% is 30 over 100. And simplest form would be 3 over 10. So this is 3 over 10. Okay, the last one, self-taught. Okay, is 26%. We know it's also closer to 30%, but we also know that it's closer to 25%. And we know that 25% is 25 over 100, and we simplify this to become 1/4. Remember, a quarter is 1/4 of a dollar. So that's how we remember 25%, which is 1/4. Okay, so that is 1/4 right there. So these are the estimated percent and the estimated fractions of those percents. Okay, so let's take a look at number 1. Estimate each percent. Choose an estimate that can be represented by a fraction that is easy to use. We just did that. Then write each estimated percent as a fraction in simplest form. We also did that in this column right here. Okay, so number 2, about how many people took lessons at school. Remember that there are 200 people, okay, that took lessons in school. The word about tells us that we need to estimate. So lessons at school, we have 3 over 10. So we are going to use the fraction of 3 over 10, and we are going to get 3 over 10 of 200. Remember that 3 over 10 of 200, it is the same as 3/10 times 200, okay, which actually becomes 200 over 1. And if we cross cancel, that is 1, and that is 2, okay. So 200 divided by uh, 10 is 20, sorry, not 2, but 20. So this is 20. So we now have 3 times 20 is equal to 60. So about 60 people, okay, took lessons at school. Okay, so Sarah estimates that the percent of people who taught themselves to play an instrument is 25%. So we got here 25% right there. Okay, and then she found 1/4 of 200. Would her answer be less or greater than the actual number of people who were self-taught? So again, our estimate is 25%, but the actual percent is 26%. So basically, it's asking would her answer be less or greater than the actual number of people who were self-taught? So the most logical answer will be less than. Okay. Why is that? Because since, okay, the estimated percent is lower than the actual percent, okay, her estimated answer will be less than the actual answer. That's the answer to that question. Okay. Since our estimate is only 25% and the actual percent is 26%, okay, reason dictates that the estimated answer will be lower, okay, since the estimated percent is lower than the actual percent. Okay, so let's take a look at the lesson proper. Estimate the percent of a number. So sometimes an exact answer is not needed, and that's the reason why we need to estimate. One way to estimate the percent of a number is to use a fraction. Another method of estimating a percent of a number is to find 10% of the number and then multiply. Okay, what does that mean? For example, 70%, okay, is the same as 7 times 10%. So 70% equals 7 times 10% of a number. Okay, so how does that work? Let's take a look at example number. Jody has paid 62% of 500 she owes for her loan. Estimate 62% of 500. So the first thing we need to do here is we need to get 62% of 500. Okay, we know that 62% is close to, this is approximately close to 60%. So we are going to do 6%, okay, of 500. Okay, so now we have 60% of 500. We also know that 60% as a fraction, so we need to know our fractions. 60% is 60 over 100, or as a fraction in simplest form, 60% is 3 over 5. So we will get 3/5 of 500, okay? And then we multiply 3/5 of 500, which should be equal to 300. Why? Because this is 1 and this is 100. And multiply 3 times 100 will give us 300. So 62% of 500 is approximately 300. So that is the answer to our question. Okay, 62% of 500 is about 300. Let's take a look at example number 2. Example number 2 talks about Marita and her 4 friends. So Marita and 4 of her friends ordered pizza that costs $14.72. She is responsible for 20% of the bill. That means she will be paying 20% of the bill. But how much money will she need to pay? Again, you don't want to take out your calculator and do this. So you are using this and estimating, okay, to make it faster. So estimate usually to make things, our calculations faster. So step number 1, we need to find 10% of $15, okay? And we know for a fact that 10% of $15 is right here is the same as zero point 0.1 times 15. Okay, and zero point 0.1 times 15 is the same as $1.50. So we are using the 10% method. We know also after step number 1 that that 20% is actually 2 times 10%. So we get our $1.50 and we simply multiply $1.50 by 2. So we get 2 times $1.50 gives us $3. So Marita is going to pay around, okay, $3 of the entire $14.72 bill. Okay, so that's how you use the 10% method to be able to estimate your percent. So do the guided problems and let's see if you understand the lesson. In the next one, percents greater than 100 or less than 1, this is our second objective. You can also estimate percents of numbers when percent is greater than 100 or less than 1. Let's take a look at the percent that's greater than 100 and let's see how we can estimate. So we want to estimate 122% of 50. Again, we know for a fact that 122% is right around 120%. Okay? And from what we learned in the last lesson, we will get 120% of 50. Okay? So we also know that 120% is 100% of 50, and it's also 20% of 50. So we want to get 100% of 50, and we are going to add 20% of 50. Okay, why is that? Because if we get 100% of 50, we know right away what the answer is. 100% of 50 is simply 50. Okay, so our only problem now is finding 20% of 50. Okay, so 100% of 50 is simply 1 times 50 because 100% as a decimal is 1. Multiply that by 50, your is always multiplication. And the fraction of 20% is 1/5 because this is uh, 20 over 100. And we simplify that to become 1/5. That's how we got 1/5. So we got 1/5 of 50. Again, we cross cancel. That's a 1, that's a 10. So basically 1/5 of 50 is actually 10. So we're adding 50 plus 10 or 60. So 122% is about 60. Okay? So for this, do the 3 guided problems and let's see if you understand example number 3. Let's take a look at example number 4. Remember, okay, we are looking at percents greater than 100 or less than 1. Example number 4, it is going to be less than 1. So there are 789 7th grade students at Washington Middle School. About 1/4% of the 7th grade students have traveled overseas. What is the approximate number of 7th grade students that have traveled overseas? And we need to explain. Okay, so let's look at 1/4%. 1/4%, okay, is basically 1/4 uh, of 1. So when you talk about 1/4% is 1/4 of 1%. Okay, and we get 789 and we rounded to $800, which is a good round number. Okay, we can round it to 790 if you want, but 800 is easier to manipulate. Okay, so what we do now is we simply get 1% of 800. Okay, so we get 1% of 800, okay, which is 0.01, okay, times 800, or we simply move the decimal place 2 spaces to the left. So if when we multiply 0.01 is 800, we simply move this 2 spaces to the left. So we get 8. So 1% of 800 is 8. Okay. Now after that, since 1/4% is 1/4 of 1, we now get 1/4 of 8. So 1/4 of 8, okay, is the same as 2. Okay, again, if we take a look at this and we cross cancel, Okay, this is 1 right there, and this is 2. So 1/4 of 8 is 2. Our answer therefore would be 1/4 of 8 is 2. So about 2 7th grade students have traveled overseas. Okay, the guided problem, and let's see if you understand that example. So the last example, of course, would be a word problem. So last year, 639 students attended a summer camp. Of those who attended this year, you have 0.5% also attended summer camp last year. But how many students attended 2 years in a row? So again, let's analyze this problem. You have 0.5%, which is less than 1, attended summer camp last year. And the total number of students is 639. Well, how many students attended the summer camp 2 years in a row? So we need to find the number of students who attended 2 years in a row. Okay, so we convert 0.5%, which is actually half of a percent. Remember, 0.5% is actually half of 1%. So first we get 1%, okay, of 639, and we are going to estimate this, okay. So we have 1% of 639, which is 0.01, will give us right around 6, okay, because we can actually round this off to 600. So 639 can be rounded off to 600, okay, and that's how we got 6. Because if I multiply this by 0.01, I move my decimal place 2 spaces to the left, that'll give me 6, okay. So once now we have 6, we are going to get half of that because we know that 0.5% is half of 1%.